Hey there, nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back on another episode of the Golden Age. This is our series of Warhammer Fantasy Battle Reports, and this is Battle Report number 147. It is a 3,000 point battle that is fought between Dogs of War as well as Nurgle Legion of Chaos. In this game, my friend Dark Lord Mac is bringing his Nurgle Legion of Chaos, the Garden of Maladies, as you can see spread out all the way across the battlefield across from me, and I will be once again playing my army, the Miragliano Mercenaries of the Dogs of War. So for those of you guys who are tuning in for the very first time, what is happening is that I have actually created a 3,000 point Dogs of War army for our Studios collection. And what I'm doing now is I'm taking the Dogs of War army through its paces by making it fight every single army in the Studios collection one by one, and testing it out to see exactly how it does. So the last two battles I fought with this army were actually horrible defeats. So because I went back to the drawing board and reorganized my army, so it's a much different army than it was before, and we'll talk about that later on when we get to deployments. But for now though, I'm now facing against my buddy Dark Lord Mac. We're going to play some background music real quick. As the music is playing, we will show you photos of both armies as well as our army rosters. If you want to see exactly what we're bringing for this battle report, go and pause and take a look at your leisure, or check down the description box below for the army contents. So with that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll.
Crom, I've never prayed you before. I have no tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad, why we fought or why we died. No. All that matters is that two stood against many. That's what's important. Power pleases you, Crom. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then the hell with you.
Assemble the army!
Alright, so let's talk about the scenario rules for this one. The scenario rules is Battle Line is the most typical game of Warhammer Fantasy that we play on this channel with standard deployment as well as standard victory conditions. So with the scenario rules over with, let's go ahead and talk about deployments and battle plans. Alright, so first of all, let's go and talk about deployment for the Miragliano Mercenaries on my far left-hand flank. On the back there, that is the Agonia, which is my Mercenary Great Cannon on the top of those runes there. And right in front of them is Estasi, my Mercenary Revolt as well. Right next to them on the right-hand side, that unit is called Perazzo's Lost Legion. It is a regiment of renown. It consists of a unit of 30 fighters with 12 crossbowmen and 18 pikemen as well. They're armed with light armor as well as pikes and crossbows. And at the same time, they have a musician as well as a standard bearer. And leading that unit is Perazzo himself, a special character who's got crossbow, heavy armor, as well as a hand weapon as well. And then right next on the right-hand side, that unit is called the Lucchini Rifles. You have 20 handgunners with musician and standard bearer. They have handguns as well as hand weapons as well as devices, and leading that unit as well as Hildegard von Königsmark, my hireling wizard. She's a level 1 wizard with the spells of the Lore of Light as well. And that pretty much makes up my left-hand flank for my deployment. So continuing with my deployment real quick, Vanguard up 12 inches beyond the farm. That is my unit called the Thugs of Tabaro. It's a unit of 5 Stadiotes. They basically have light crossbows, and they're also mounted on war horses. Meanwhile, my center deployment, I have a unit called the Golden Company. It's a massive unit of 38 Paymasters Bodyguard. Those guys are also equipped with a musician as well as standard bearer as well as a warden. They have heavy armor as well as halberds as well as a standard discipline, giving this unit +1 to its leadership as well. Now, normally this unit would not be able to benefit from the general's inspiring presence, but my generals also look here in that leader unit as well. His name is Condottieri Patricio El Torchio. He's a merchant prince. He's also got an ogre blade for giving +2 to strength, armor of destiny for heavy armor plus a 4+ ward save. He's got Guido's lucky coin, which allows me to reroll to hit, to wound, or making armor or ward saves. He's got the forward march strategy, which gives him all my infantry units Vanguard movement 6 up forward. Instead of actually, but we decided not to do that this time around because, like I said before, I want to shoot at my enemies. He's also mounted on a barded warhorse as well. Also in that unit are 2 more characters. Brunhilde von Königsmark. She's my hiring wizard lord. She's got a level 4 wizard with the Lore of Light. She's got the Staff of Fickle Fortune for her magical item. And I also have Sheikh Shabazz, who's my paymaster. He's got heavy armor, shield, as well as a great weapon. He's mounted on a pay chest with a pay cart. He's also got bodyguards with it. And he's also equipped with Justintine's pay chest. And then following the right-hand side as well, there's another unit called Varenzo's Gunners. It is a unit of 20 handgunners with standard bearer musician. They have hand weapons, handguns, and devices, as well as a banner of eternal flames because they use the best that money can buy special rule. So those guys have flaming attacks. And leading that unit, of course, is Gretchen von Königsmark. She is a level 1 wizard from the Lore of Light, and she also has a Dispel scroll as well. And make up the far right-hand side of my deployment, that is Mordini's Nightmare Legion. It is a unit of 30 doomed legionaries. These guys have heavy armor, halberds, shields. They also cause fear because they're also undead. And leading that unit, I got 2 characters. First of all, I have Renzo Avanti, who's the unit champion. He's got additional hand weapons as well as heavy armor. He's the unit standard bearer, actually. And then I also have Ennio Mordini, which is the special character leads this unit as well. He's got heavy armor and shield. He's also packing the magical weapon Scamp's Wrath. And finally deployed for 12 inches using the Vanguard special rule is my unit, the Saints of Sartosa. It's a unit of 8 mercenary man-eaters. They have a bellower as well as a standard bearer. I got 3 mercenary man-eaters who are armed with heavy armor as well as additional hand weapons. And the 4 guys in the back are armed with heavy armor as well as great weapons. And at the same time, their rules that they have for them for their been there, done that rule are stubborn as well as Vanguard. And that pretty much makes up my deployment for that. So the deployment over with, let's go across the table for my friend, Dark Lord Mac. Alright, so lined up across me is the deployment for the Garden of Maladies, Dark Lord Mac's 3,000 point Legion of Nurgle army for Chaos Legions. So up front, using the Scout special rule, we got 2 units of 3 Nurglings apiece. We have the Inglorious on the left-hand side, as well as the Degenerates on the right-hand side, kind of taking up blocking positions in my main lines. And continuing on this deployment on the far left-hand side, that unit is called the Droning Horrors. As you know, 3 plague drones of Nurgles. They have a musician as well as standard bearer. They're also packing death heads as well, and they're also mounted on rotflies. And right next on the right-hand side, unit's called the Tallyman. It's a unit of 39 plague bearers, Nurgle musician, and standard bearer. They also have plague swords, and they're led by Barnabas the Scrivener. He is a herald of Nurgle. He's also the army's battle standard bearer with the lesser locus of virulence. It means these guys have 5 up on their poison attacks for them as well. He's also the army's standard battle standard bearer too. And make up the right-hand side of his army. On the left-hand side, he is called the Dustman. He's 23 Chaos Warriors of Nurgle musician, standard bearer, as well as a sparring champion. They're packing Chaos armor as well as additional hand weapons. They also have the standard bearer, standard of discipline, giving them unit +1 to the leadership. And leading that unit as well is Festus the Empowered. Festus Leechor, he's level 3 wizard. He's got hand weapon destined for demonhood special rule. He's also got poison attacks. He's also got healing elixir. He's got his pestilent potions as well as his shroudling bound spell. And for the Lord Nurgle on this one, he's got Blades of Putrefaction, Cursed Leper, as well as Fleshy Abundance. Next on the right-hand side is Horticulus Slimex and Mulch, Exalted Hero of Nurgle. He's got a Mark of Nurgle as well as a Halberd and Chaos Armor and Shield. He's got Dragonhelm, Dawnstone, as well as Nurgle's Rot and Poison Slime, and he's mounted on a Chaos Roar Shrine of Nurgle. And of course, it also gives him a 4 ward save. And then right behind them is Hastur, the King in Yellow. He is the general of this army. He's a Demon Prince of Nurgle. He's also level 4 Wizard with the Lore of Death with Demonic Flight, as well as Chaos Armor. He's got the Sword of Striking, Charm Shield, Dragonbane Gem, Chaos Familiar. He's also got Scaled Skin as well as Soul Feeder. And then finally on the right-hand side, we have the Ruination of Prague, a unit of 3 Plague Drones of Nurgle, Musician, Standard Bearer. They also got Death Heads upgrades. And that pretty much makes up the deployment for this one. So deployment over with, we go directly to battle plans. So now that we're done talking about deployment, let's talk about battle plans real quick. So I do have the forward march stratagem for my army, where I can vanguard all of my infantry units up 4 to 6 inches. However, this time around, I am not going to do that. And the reason why is because I am facing against Legions of Chaos. Legions of Chaos are notoriously good at close combat. So because of that, instead of trying to get close a distance to my enemy where he can charge me and fight me on his terms, I'm going to make my enemy cross the battlefield and come towards me instead. And the reason why is because I do have a pretty shooting heavy army. I got 40 handgunners. I also got a Revolt, a Great Cannon. I also got 12 crossbows. So my goal is to whittle my enemy down as he crosses the battlefield and tries to close a distance with me. And then what my plan from there then is to fight defensively, either by countercharging or fully enveloping my enemy. As you can see, my flanks on my main battle line are locked down by my Prowl's Last Legion as well as Mordini's Nightmare Legion. And vanguarding up forward are my Saints of Sartosa. Hopefully what I can do is try to flank my enemy at the same time, catch him on the flank, and then destroy him that way while my forces countercharge and defeat against him. And that is pretty much what my battle plan is on this one. So with the battle plan over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and both Dark Lord Mac and I roll off for initiative to see which of us will be going first. We'll be right back after turn number 1. Alright, so now we're back after the top of turn number 1 after the move phase, and I managed to get the initiative on this one, so I will be going first. And as you can see, for the most part, most of my army pretty much stays exactly where they're located at. Most of these shooting elements in my army are either move or shoot, so because that moving with my main battle line, not exactly the most safe bet for me to take, especially if I want to whittle down my enemies with some shooting attacks. So as you can see, my entire battle line pretty much stays in the same place. I do move a couple of my forces though. I move up my Stratiotes, the thugs of Tabaro, up forward, so that way they can kind of harass these guys over here from the droning horrors in order to deal with those guys. At the same time, I also march up Mordini's Nightmare Legion as well to give them more of an advantageous position or to flank anybody that might be coming down the main battle line. And I do exactly the same thing with the Saints of Sartosa, doing a wheel formation over here to try to charge the flank anybody that comes down the pike way as well. And that pretty much makes up my move phase for this one. So with the move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. Alright, so we are back from the magic phase. So let's talk about what ended up happening. Had a pretty successful magic phase, able to get 11 power dice on this one. So first of all, I casted the boosted version of Shem's Burning Gaze. So first of all, Hildegard von Königsmark, who's actually one of my level 1 wizards, she actually casted the boosted version directly towards my opponent over here at the far side with the Tallyman. Same thing with Gretchen von Königsmark as well. Both those characters able to get off that spell, that boosted version spell. I threw 4 power dice at it. Did a really good job on that one, and as you can see, caused all kinds of damage as well. But the piece of resistance, though, happened when I actually cast the spell Banishment. Brunhilde von Königsmark, my level 4 Lore of Light wizard, she cast that spell off, and because I have 2 light wizards within 12 inches, it boosts up to strength 6. So because it was all kinds of brutal as well. So as you can see over here, in the end, managed to almost half this unit, which is absolutely fantastic. There's only, 22 guys of these guys left, so 18 of them get killed because they get the additional d6 against Chaos Demons. So that part was absolutely brutal on this one. So far, really happy with the way that my Coven of Light is actually working right now with the von Königsmark sisters. Now, of course, I got Banishment off because, unfortunately, I rolled 2 6s to get that spell off. So I did roll 7 on the miscast on that one, so because I have 5 members of the Golden Company get atomized as she kind of spontaneously explodes as well. At the same time, eating up the very last of my magic dice as well and ending my magic phase. So all things considered, not bad, all things considered at this point. So with the magic phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase, and we'll be right back after this. Alright, so we're back after the shooting phase, so let's go and talk about what ended up happening. So first of all, I concentrated fire with Perazzo's Last Legion with my 12 crossbowmen as well as Lucchini rifles. Both of those units opened fire with their handguns and their crossbows respectively directly here into the degenerates. Managed to kill 2 bases as well as put a floating wound on the 3rd one. Meanwhile, the Varenzo gunners opened fire with their handguns directly into the Inglorious. Managed to kill an entire base of those guys as well. So shooting phase is pretty epic over there. Unfortunately, my war machines did not do as well as I anticipated. The Stase, which is my Ecstasy, which is my Revolt, opened fire directly into the droning horrors. Managed to put a wound on one of them, so that part was kind of sad. I was not pretty impressed with that. Same thing with the Thugs of Tabaro, they ran able to do anything. And then lastly, Lagonia also opened fire with its great cannon directly into Horticolic Slime Mix as well as Mulch. Unfortunately for me, didn't do very much on the wounds. Only managed to put 2 wounds on that guy. The guy still's got a lot more to go, but you know, I'll take what I can get at this point. I was really happy that I actually got those 2 wounds through. My opponent filled both his armor save as well as his ward save as well, so that part was kind of nice. So with that being said, that ends up the shooting phase, and since no one's engaged in close combat, that pretty much ends my turn. So because I go directly to the bottom of turn number 1 for my friend Dark Lord Mac. Alright, so now we're back for the bottom of turn number 2 for my friend Dark Lord Mac, and this is taken after the move phase, and as you can see, some dramatic movement has taken forth. So let's talk about what happened first. So first of all, the Degenerates do declare a charge directly against the Lucchini rifles, and of course I decide to stand and shoot as a reaction. With my combined shots, able to finish out the very last of those guys, so those guys are now dead. And the exact same thing happened over here. The Inglorious, of course, declare a charge against the Vrezzo gunners. I stand my ground and I pop off another base, so because there's only one of those bases of those guys left. Now from there, of course, we go, and I forgot to mention, they also failed their charge at exactly the same time. Now over here on the left-hand side, the Droning Horrors do declare a charge against my Thugs of Tabaro. I do try to flee as a result, but I just flub my rolls horrifically, and my friend Dark Lord Mag decides to pursue anyways, so he goes after him and manages to slaughter them all at the exact same time. So that part was horrific. Now, meanwhile, over here, my friend Dark Lord Mac does do a swift reform real quick with the Tallyman, puts them in column formation, has them match up for their maximum movement allowance. Same thing with the Dustmen as well. So those guys are moving up. The same thing over here with Horticolix and Slimex. They also march up forward, looking for luck. They're trying to go directly towards my right-hand side. Meanwhile, over here on the right-hand flank, the Ruination of Prague move up their normal moon allowance to fire death heads directly at my Saints of Sartosa. And over here in the back, Hastur, the King in Yellow. March flies directly to the top of this hill. It looks like he's going to try to cast some death spells directly towards my Man-Eater. So that part is pretty rough over there as well. And that pretty much makes it my friend's movement phase for this one. So with movement phase over with, we go directly to the bottom of the next turn. We talk about the magic phase. Alright, so now we're back. This is after the magic as well as a shooting phase for my friend Dark Lord Matt. So first of all, the first thing he does, of course, is does Giver of Glory using the bound spell on his War Shrine Slimex. So Horticultic Slimex was able to get that spell off, was able to get all three of the champions some bonuses. Gave himself +1 armor save for Horticultic Slimex as well as Mulch, but doesn't really need it because he already gets a 1-up armor save for his Exalted Hero. Also put in +1 armor save for Leech Lord. Festus the Leech Lord empowered as well as his Chaos Champion got +1 attack as well. And the second was able to get the Shroudling spells off, which means that everyone within 12 inches of these guys have -1 to hit against them because they're in soft cover, which also protect them from War Machine fire as well. Now he does try to cast the spell Soulblight off over here with Hastur the King of Yellow on top of my Things of Sartosa, but was able to stop that spell pretty easily by using a Dispel Scroll in order to stop that spell as well. Now during the shooting phase, of course, these guys from the Ruination of Prague open fire with their Death Heads. One does manage to slip through, but lucky for me, that only causes 1 wound, so pretty lucky, all things considered. So with the magic phase and shooting phase is over with, because no one's engaged in close combat, that pretty much ends turn number 1. So that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 2. We'll go right back after the movement phase. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top of turn number 2 from my army, the Dogs of War, and this video is taken after the move phase, so let's talk about exactly what happens. So as you can see, for most of my battle line units, they remain exactly the same. The reason why is because these guys are mainly shoot or move, so I'm not going to move these guys so much, that way I get another round of shooting directly towards my opponent as well some good magic too at the same time, because my magic missile has been tearing it up. Meanwhile over here though, on the right hand side, though, the most dramatic thing took place with the charges. First of all, I declare a charge with my Saints of Sartosa, so they go charging directly into the front of the Ruination of Prague. And of course, when I rolled for that one, I rolled for my Ogre charge to see if I actually got 10 or higher. I didn't, but they still get the cosmic impact hit, which is all kinds of awesome. At the same time, I also decided to charge in Mordini's Nightmare Legion as well to catch these guys in a pincer attack, so that way I can totally destroy these guys. And hopefully I can start sweeping along the right-hand flank here and start engaging my enemies. My biggest fear, of course, is that I'd get bogged down, so that's the reason why I sent the Nightmare Legion in as well, to hopefully destroy this unit, so that way I can square off directly against Hastur the King in Yellow, because that guy catching the flank of the rear, it's going to cause all kinds of problems for my right-hand flankers. But other than that, though, everything else pretty much stays exactly where they're located at, so with the movement phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. Alright, so now we're back on the magic phase. Unfortunately, my magic phase was not as successful as the previous magic phase. I was able to kill a couple more members of the Tallyman using the Shimmer's Burning Gaze, so that part was kind of nice. I did try to fire it again, but my friend Dark Lord Mag actually stopped that spell from getting off. And he also managed to stop a spell, managed to stop my spell from Shimmer's Burning Gaze a second time around with my level 4 caster. But with my level 4 caster, though, I was able to get off Net of Namniok directly off onto the Dustman, so if they move, cast spells, anything, they're going to take D6 strength 4 hits, so that part is awesome as well. So kind of trying to control the access point for those guys and make sure they don't come in up any closer than they have to. So with the magic phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. We'll be right back after that. Alright, so now we're back after the shooting phase, and some pretty successful things ended up happening, so let's talk about exactly what happened. So first of all, over here with the droning horrors, I was able to kill one of those guys as well as put 3 wounds directly on the next guy as well. This is from a combination of fires from my Revolt, which is Stasi, as well as my Prazzo's Lost Legion, as well as my handgunners from the Lucchini rifles. I did pop those guys down. Managed to kill one of them, put 3 floating wounds on the other one, so that part was kind of nice. At the same time as well, as the Vrenzo Gunners did finish out the very last of the Degenerates, which is absolutely fantastic. But the Peste de Resistance, however, took place up here on the top of the hill. As you can see, Hastur, the King in Yellow, is now dead. Pretty much what I did is I took aim with Gonya, my great cannon. Of course, rolled 10 from the back on that one. Fired all the way across the battlefield. Managed to get an 8 on that one, so I had to bounce one more time. Rolled a perfect 8, then went right through him. Unfortunately for my buddy Dark Lord Mac, he flubbed his ward save. At the same time, I rolled my D6 for my wounds, caused 5 wounds on this guy, and just like that, Hastur the King in Yellow is dead right there. So that part was absolutely fantastic. So with the shooting phase over with, we now go directly to the close combat phase between the Mordini's Nightmare Legion as well as my Saints of Sartosa against the Ruination of Prague. We'll be right back after this. Alright, so now we're back for the combat phase, and as you can see over here, we had no problem whatsoever just slaughtering the last of the Ruination of Prague. When it was all said and done, the Ruination of Prague was able to kill one of my man-eaters from the Saints of Sartosa with a combination of impact hits as well as attacks from my man-eaters, especially my great weapon attacks when they came in last. Same thing with some of the supporting attacks from Mardini's Nightmare Legion. It was enough to finally put off and just destroy the entire unit of plague drones. So just like that, those guys die. I do swift reforms real quick to face off against the right-hand flank of my enemy Dark Lord Mac's army, and that pretty much ends up my turn. So that being said, we go directly to the bottom of turn number 2 from our friend Dark Lord Mac. Alright, so we're back for the end of turn at the bottom of turn number 2 from our friend Dark Lord Mac and his army, the Garden of Maladies. So let's talk about exactly what happened first. So first of all, my brother Dark Lord Mac decides to declare a charge of the droning horrors directly into La Estasi, and of course I can't do anything about it because I'm a war machine, and then of course he has no problems making that charge directly to my revolts because my revolt is now engaged in close combat with the droning horrors. Unfortunately for my friend Dark Lord Mac, though, he does try to declare a couple of charges with his main infantry units. Unfortunately for him, he doesn't actually succeed too much with these guys. He does succeed, however, with Horticultic Slimex as well as Mulch. They go charging across this battlefield directly into my Renzo Gunners. I do, of course, try to stand and shoot as a reaction, but unfortunately I don't do anything to them. So now these poor guys are engaged in close combat. Meanwhile, my opponent, of course, tries to declare a charge with the Tallyman, fails his charge, and it only moves up 4 inches. Does exactly the same thing with the Dustman, who passed their strength test for the net of Amniok, so they're perfectly fine. But unfortunately, he fails his charge too, and only goes up 4 inches as well. And that pretty much makes up his move phase for this one. So the move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. Alright, so with the move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase, and unfortunately for our friend Dark Lord Mac, his magic phase was pretty much non-existent. He just kind of flubbed a lot of his magic rolls, so I was able to dispel almost all of his dice every single time I tried to cast a spell. He did try to cast in Shroudlings. Luckily for me, though, I was able to beat that one. He also tried to do exactly the same thing with Curse of the Leper, trying to increase the toughness of his units as well, but luckily I was able to stop that one. And of course, he tried to do Fleshy Abundance as well, and I was able to shut down that spell too. So with the magic phase over with, we skip the shooting phase because the shooting elements are engaged in close combat, and with that we go directly to the combat phase. We'll be right back after this. Alright, so now we're back with the combat phase. Unfortunately for me, the Droning Horrors had no problem whatsoever destroying La Estasi, my revolts, because they destroy that, no problem. And also because of that, they overrun directly into La Agonia, so because of that, my Great Cannon now is engaged in close combat as well. Now over here, though, on the other hand, though, I got kind of lucky on this one, and the reason why is because the combat over here, Horticultic Slimex Exalted Champion, because he has Eyes of the God, has to declare a challenge. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a champion in this unit. All I have is my level 1 Laurel Light Wizard, Gretchen von Königsmark, so of course she has to answer the challenge. Now, needless to say, my opponent had no problem killing off and destroying Gretchen von Königsmark, so because she did die. Also managed to kill her 2 times over with 2 additional wounds on top of that. So that part was insane. However, the main problem, though, is that my opponent's Chaos Shrine Bearers, Slimex, flubbed his rolls horribly. He was only able to kill 1 member of my Renzo Gunners as well. Now, of course, I try a counterattack. I don't do anything against this thing. I only have just handgunners with hand weapons. They don't have anything extra going on with these guys. But oddly enough, because I do have 1 rank more than my opponent, that means I have Steadfast, as weird as it may sound. So because I do pass my Steadfast test, I'm right next to Justin-Tine's pay chest from Sheikh Shabazz, my paymaster, so I'm going to roll 3d6, take the 2 lowest results because I stand my ground, no problem whatsoever. And now I've bogged down Horticultic Slimex as well as Mulch. So with the combat phase over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 3 for the Dogs of War. We'll be right back after this. Alright, so that takes us right to the top of turn number 3 for the Dogs of War, and this is after the movement phase. And as you can see, I really don't do much movement along my main battle line, so let's talk about exactly what happened. So first of all, I do swift reforms with Perazzo's Lost Legion. Now unfortunately, I do lose my shooting by doing this, but at the same time, though, it gets me the ability to square off directly against the droning horrors once they destroy Agonia as well. At the same time, I do swift reforms real quick with Lucchini's rifles, manage to put them in column formation as well because I'm anticipating being charged at. Granted, I don't have enough guns to actually cause much of anything, but I really can't shoot at my opponent anyways all that well because the trees are blocking line of sight, so I figured might as well get ready for close combat just in case. At the same time, I still keep the position for my Golden Company. They stand their ground. At the same time, I also do a quick reform real fast with the Renzo Gunners, putting them in column formation as well so that way I can bog down my opponent. Meanwhile, up here on the top, I do march up forward the Saints of Sartosa, my mercenary man-eaters, as well as march up my Nordini's Nightmare Legion, so that way they can kind of surround these guys, hopefully catch my opponent in a pincer attack as well. And that pretty much makes up my movement phase for this one. So the move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. Alright, so we're back with the magic phase. Unfortunately, the magic phase was not very strong for me, unfortunately. I rolled pretty low for my power dice. I did manage, however, to cast Banishment off directly onto the Tallyman, so I was able to kill, I think, 6 more of them, so that part was pretty awesome as well. And I just barely got off Brianna's Time Warp directly onto the Golden Company as well. The only thing that saved me was my Staff of Fickle Fortune. I actually missed it by 2, and I was able to get that last 2 points off of my Staff of Fickle Fortune. So because of my guys over here in the Golden Company have twice as much movement, they have +1 attack as well as always strike first. These guys are ready to rumble. So that part is absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately for my opponent, though, he did try to spin up all of his power dice in order to stop Banishment from taking place. He had nothing left in order to stop me from getting Bjana's Time Warp off. So really loving the Coven of Light build for this army with the 3 Wizards of Light, 2 level 1s, and 1 level 4. It is really helping out in this, and especially in this battle against demons. So with that being said, with the magic phase over with, we skip the shooting phase because all my guys moved who can shoot. So with the shooting phase over with, we go directly to the close combat phase between Horticolic Slimex, Mulch, as well as the Varenzo Gunners. We'll be right back after this. Alright, so now we're back with the combat phase. And unfortunately, as you can imagine, Agonia, my great cannon, did not stand a chance against 2 Plague Drones. The Plague Drones from the Droning Horrors had no problem whatsoever destroying my great cannon and, just dissolving their corpses in acidic ooze from the Nurgle army. So they die horrible deaths. And from there, of course, my opponent, of course, Dark Lord Mac reforms his guys to face off directly against Prazzo's Lost Legion. Meanwhile, combat between Horticolic Slimex and Mulch, the Exalted Hero, against Varenzo Gunners was absolutely devastating. As you can see, they managed to kill, I think, like 6 of my guys, what they ended up doing. Just absolutely slaughtered these guys, however. But I still have an additional rank over my opponent, so because I do get the test of my unmodified leadership. And due to Drisentine's pay chest, I get to roll 3d6 for a break test. And of course, I had no problem whatsoever surviving that, and that part was absolutely fantastic. To make things worse, I failed my leadership test for fear. Because the chariot does cause fear on the Chaos War Shrine. So I was at weapon skill 1. That's the reason why I was able to kill so many of my guys. Those Shrine Bearers are just destroyed. It's so much easier to hit when you have weapon skill 3 against weapon skill 1, actually. So with the combat phase over with, we go directly to the we go directly to the next turn, and we'll be right back after this. Alright, so we go right to the bottom, turn number 3 for my buddy Dark Lord Mac, and this is after the move phase, and he actually pulls a quick one, so let's talk about that real quick. So first of all, he declares a charge of the Droning Horrors, not against Prazzo's Lost Legion. No, he's got a perfect little area for him to land in, right on the flank of Lucini Rifles. I can't believe I made such a bonehead mistake in leaving this huge area open to be flank charged. So because he rolls his dice, of course, has no problem flying right over Prazzo's Lost Legion into the flank of Lucini Rifles, which is really bad because I have no way to be able to stand and shoot because they're coming from my flank, so that part was rough. At the same time, he also declares a charge of the Tallyman, makes it directly across the battlefield and smashes directly into the Golden Company. I don't have any guns in the Golden Company, so I can't stand and shoot as a reaction. He does, of course, try to do exactly the same thing with the Dustman, but unfortunately, though, he fails his charge distance, only able to go 4 inches as well. Meanwhile, Horticolic Slimex and Molt are still engaged in close combat with my Varenzo Gunners, and that pretty much makes up his move phase for this one. So the move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. Alright, so now we're back with the magic phase. So my friend Dark Lord Mac does try to cast Curse of the Leopard directly onto his Tallyman. Luckily for me, though, I was able to put that spell down, but he was able to get off the Blades of Putrefaction directly onto these Tallymans, and now they have poison attacks. I was able to do anything about it because he miscast 6 on this bad boy. So because of that, a small round template explodes, puts a wound directly onto Festus the Leech Lord, as well as kills 6 members of his team, including his champion, which is absolutely fantastic. So because of that, that Blades of Putrefaction does go off. Now these guys have poison attacks. So with the magic phase over with, we skip the shooting phase because everyone's engaged in close combat, and we go straight to the combat phase. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the combat phase real quick. So over here was absolute slaughter, for me anyways. In the end, I was able to kill off the very last of the Droning Horrors, which is absolutely fantastic. Managed to pop off the last one for that guy, but my opponent was able to kill 3 of my people as well. Now the problem is that he flanked me, which is bad, because that means he's disrupted my entire column formation, which means I don't get rank bonuses because of that. Which basically means I have to roll, I believe I managed to win this combat by 1, I think. So I roll my dice, right, to take my break test. I roll 2 6s and a 5, right, because of Drisentine's pay chest, which is right next door to my guy, so I get the 2 lowest. So I failed it. So I re-rolled it again. I roll 3 6s. So because my guys are going to break, of course, and I try to roll to flee, I roll Snake Eyes. My opponent, Dark Lord Mac, rolls Boxcars. So because the Journey Orders are going to run through and destroy my Lucini rifles and crash directly into my flank. Meanwhile, over here, the combat between the Dustmen as well as my Golden Company was an absolute slaughter. I got to go first, which means I got to always strike first. I got twice as many attacks now because I got +1 attacks. I also have, because of that, I also can also reroll my misses. I just absolutely slaughtered what's left of the Tallyman. Originally, my opponent decided to declare a challenge with Barnabas the Scrivener, his battle center bearer. I, of course, answered and responded with my general, Condottieri Patricio Tucci, which is Turcho, sorry, which is my merchant prince. He does fail his fear check, so that part was kind of horrible. Put me as a weapon with skill 1, but I rolled like 3 6s when I went to go attack him, so it didn't really matter because I got to re-roll my missed attacks, and so because I was able to slaughter that guy, kill him, and the rest of my Paymaster's bodyguards did exactly the same thing, so poof, that unit got atomized. Meanwhile, the combat over here, my opponent flubbed bad for his attacks. He did nothing against the Varenzo Gunners. Meanwhile, the Varenzo Gunners managed to slip 1 wound directly onto Horticulix, Slimex, and Mulch. Because I do win combat, he has to flee. He has to take a break test. He fails his break test because the Battle Center Bearer is dead, so he doesn't get a reroll. So he flees 11 inches. I pursue 7. He's going to run through directly Mordini's Lost Legion, which means he's got to take a drainage trade test, and my opponent fails that test, which caused this guy to die. And it's at this point that my friend decides to call the game, just because even though he destroyed my Lucini rifles, he just has 1 unit left, really. Well, 1 unit, 1 plague drone. I have pretty much my entire army. So that pretty much ends the game with a victory for the Dogs of War. So that being said, we're going to go directly to the post game because this battle report is now officially over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Sure, I could have stayed in the past. Could have even been king. But in my own way, I am king. Hail to the king, baby.
Alright, so now it's time for the after action report. This is part of Battle Report where we talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can learn for the next time that we do battle. This is the after action report for the Golden Age Battle Report number 147, and this one ended up being a victory for yours truly. In the end, I was able to score 2,241 victory points, while Dark Lord Mac was able to score 575. For my losses, I lost Gretchen von Königsmark, Hildegard von Königsmark, the Lucini Rifles, Lagonia, as well as the Stasi. Dark Lord Mac, on the other hand, lost Hastur, the King in Yellow, Barnabas the Scrivener, Horticulix, Slimex, and Mulch, the Tallyman, the Inglorious, the Degenerates, as well as the Ruination of Prague. Now, my army's current record right now is sitting at 4 victories as well as 4 losses, and I've got to admit, I'm much more happy with this current army list. I can still do a lot of shooting, which is a nice fact that I had for my previous army, but I also balance it with more magic as well as close combat. And the reason why I was able to do so is because I took out a lot of special characters I actually had in this army. So let's talk about this. The army still fights offensively, so that way it relies on shooting, of course, but it can also react and also go on the offensive. Is also much more improved on this army as well. And to be perfectly honest, magic really won this battle for me. Straight to the point, that's what really did it. I really like the Lore of Life. I was always against it originally because I always thought that the Lore of Light was kind of a weak lore to use. But then I realized after I was using it that it's actually a very easy lore to cast, and I was actually surprised how much I was able to get those spells off. And when combined with the fickle Staff of Fickle Fortune, which I used for my my Wizard Lord, Brunhilde von Königsmark, it was extremely powerful, especially when I got to use Banishment. That was one that really helped out as well. And plus, at the same time, this Lore attribute to gain additional d6 hits from this Lore attribute against demons as well as undead, that part really helped. And having that Covenant of Light build for this army is really helpful as well. Those 2 level 1 wizards makes my Banishment spell strength 6, which is really important. And having a Dispel scroll, I cannot underestimate the importance of having a Dispel scroll. You should always have one in your army. It's a great magical defense tool. Do whatever you got to do in order to get that Dispel scroll in your army as well. Now, the shooting of this army is not as powerful as it was before, but it's still enough. I have 52 shooting attacks at strength 4, which also have armor piercing as well. So because I still feel like this army can still do a lot of shooting as well, and I also got my great cannon as well as my revolt still, so I really can't complain. It's not as powerful as it was in my other army list, but I have a lot more points now to do certain things to make my army a little bit more offensive. Plus the number of magic missiles I have in the Lore of Light, it's really helping out to make up that for the fact that I don't have that much shooting like I used to have. At the same time, a horde of Paymaster's bodyguards, as well as Mordini's Legion, as well as the Saints of Sartosa, make me feel much better at my odds in close combat. The bodyguards are strength 5s at all times, also stubborn as well. Mordini's Nightmare Legion, of course, are strength 4 in most cases, and they also got heavy armor and shields to make it a little bit more survivable. Then the Cursed Company also get those wounds off better as well. And plus, the Saints of Sartosa, which is a huge unit of man-eaters, is also really nice as well. Having the ability to vanguard up and attack my enemy's flanks, cannot underestimate how powerful that is. I do feel bad how I lost my Lucchini rifles. That was a total rookie mistake, exploiting their flank like that to flying skirmishers. I'm not sure what I was thinking at the time when I did it, so I can't believe I lost my Lucchini rifles like that. But, you know, I'm going to make mistakes. No one's perfect, so oh well. At the same time, this was an extremely fun game against my buddy Darklord Mac. It's been a long time since I was able to play against him in Warhammer, so it was really fun to be able to do that once again. And as always, I can't wait for the rematch against him. So there you guys have it. That is Battle Report number 147 in the books. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all these greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this week, guys. We will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay classy.